Yeah, hi all. So today we'll be learning about 2D array. Okay, still now what we are doing, we are learning about single array. Right? Now, before going to this array part, let's again recall why we actually require the array. For example, what we had initially discussed, like let's say you are storing the person's marks. Let's say person A has got 20 marks, person B has got 30 marks. And if there are 100 persons, then 100 peoples, then it's not better way to create a variable for each person and store it. Okay. So for that reason, what we found out a solution where we can create a single array. Okay. And here we can store each student's marks. Okay. Student 1, then student 2, then student 3. In this way, like we are having just a single variable. Let's say the variable name is array, and with the help of single variable, we are tracking everyone's marks, right? Okay, it works fine. But now let's imagine that each student is not having only like one subject. He'll be having multiple subjects, right? Like let's say student 1 has maths, science, English, something like that. Okay, then this is for student 1. He has some marks. Then afterwards, student 2 has some marks. Then student 3 has some marks. Clear? Now, when we have data in such format, how to store it? Okay, because if we see here now, if we try to store the student 1, he is having more than one value. He is having 2 and 3 values, right? So in such cases, what we use is a 2D array. Okay. So to take the example of this itself, let me write some data here. Let's say physics, chemistry, maths, and 9, 8, 5, 7, 9, 4, 10, 10 numbers. Now, in this data can be stored in this way also. For example, this entire thing, I'll draw it here itself. This entire thing can be considered as one array. Okay, let's say, and it's a 2D array now. Why 2D? Because if you see, there is a one array that is in horizontal way, and there's one array that's in vertical. Okay, row 1, then I can say row 2 and row 3. This all row 1, row 2, row 3 are what? In fact, array itself. And here we have column 1, column 2, and column 3. Column 1, column 2, and column 3. Yeah. And when we store the data in this way, this is nothing but 2D array. Yeah. Right. So once we have understood the concept, let's try to store these values. So for that, what I'll do is let me create an array. And for creating the array, it's again same. We have to write int array. And this time what we have to give is 2 square brackets. Yeah. Once we have done this, then same curly brackets, enter. So if you see after curly brackets, I'm entering, again, I'm using a curly bracket here. And then I'm entering some values like 10, 9, 8. This is array 1. Then after this comma, then again a curly bracket starting with 5, 7, 9, again a curly bracket saying 4, 10, 10. Yeah, that's it. So if you see, we are able to create a array. But now how to display it? So for display, let's create a function. Here I'll say public static. Do I need to return something? No, I don't want. I just want to display. So I'll use void. And I can say display array. Display array. Okay. Let's follow the convention. Okay. What I have to use is the data parameter, right? So the parameter will be same. And if you observe, I always try to keep the same name as array itself, whatever is there. Because whenever I try to call this function, it will automatically take whatever is the. And now, first, what we'll do is let's say for I want to print the array, right? So int, let's say row equal to start with 0 and go up to where array dot length. So where will this take us? This is going to take us in vertical direction. Okay, if you see, it will take us in vertical direction. And what is the value? Like 1, 2, 3. Row dot length is what? 3. So if I just write it in different color, here it is 3. And if we use less than 3, so we'll be running it up to 2 itself. So our index will be nothing but 0, 1, 2. Yeah. So that's the first thing I have written here. So here we'll be going with 0, 1, 2 in down direction. And if you are like perfect in this pattern problems and all, then this is bit easy. Like it won't be that confusing. And then what I'll do, row plus 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 plus. Once I have done this, curly brackets, and inside this I have to enter again one separate loop. So for int, I'll say the column equal to 0, and it should go up to where? Column less than. Now, this is how this loop will, what it will do? It will go in vertical direction, right? In this direction. Is it a vertical? No, this is horizontal, right? And this is what? This is vertical. Sorry for the confusion. This is vertical and this is horizontal. Okay. Now, how to get the length of this? Now here, if you see, the length is what? 3. 3 is the length. The index will be what? Index will be 0, 1, 2. How to get? So this can be written as what? It can be written if I do array of 0. Okay, if I do this, if I do sort, I'll get what? I'll get this index. That is nothing but I'll get 10, 9, and 8. Okay, now this is what? This itself is an array, right? So I can also use dot length property for this, right? So dot length. Okay, and all the arrays are same. So therefore I can give this as array square bracket. I can write 0, or if you want, you can give row also. That's also fine. Time being, I'll write 0 so that it's easy to understand. And what I do is dot length. Yeah, and then I'll update my column plus plus. Once I have done this, curly brackets, then what I'll do, I'll simply say south. I want to print in horizontal way, and here what I have to print, my array square brackets row. Then for each row, what it is, we have the column also. Yeah, let's see why there is an array mismatch cannot convert from int to boolean. Let's me clear this once again. Okay, here we forgot to give this row row less than array dot length. Yeah, and okay, let's check it now. Run it. Okay, the issue again is I didn't call this function. So I'll say display array, and I'll pass the array function here. Sorry, array argument. And if I run it, so if you see, everything is being printed, but let's give some space bar. So for that, what I'm saying, plus this. And if I run it, 10, 9, 8, 7, 10. Okay. So how did we get this? How we are getting the values here? So each element here, if I just use some different color, for example, right? So each, now this 10 is nothing but it's row, comma, column. So what is row? Row, let's say 0, comma, column is also 0. Now if we take this one, this is also having row, comma, column. And what is the row value? Row is 1. And column is also 1. Yeah. What will be the value of this? This is again row 2, 0, 1, 2, comma, 1. Correct? Clear? So I hope you have got this, and that's how we can create a 2D array. Clear? Any doubts? Okay. So once we have understood this, now what we'll do is we'll try to solve a problem which is known as spiral array. Okay. So previously what we saw is that we tried to display the array, that is the 2D array, in the correct sequential format, like however it is, we are trying to display as it is, right? Now what we'll do is we'll display it in spiral. What do I mean by spiral is that first it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, then its boundary 8, 12, 16. Okay, let me do it, draw it so that it's better in understanding. Cool. So now how we have to display is first we will be displaying 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct? And after displaying 1, 2, 3, 4, then we'll go from 8, 12, 16. We'll display this. Then after displaying this 8, 12, 16, we'll go in this direction, that is 15, 14, 30. After 15, 14, 13, we'll go up. That is 5 and 9. Then we are going in this direction, 6 and 7. Then it's 11. And then finally, we have 10. Yeah. So this is what we have to do. So before starting, let's see some keywords. For example, this entire portion, this can be referred as starting column. Am I right? This is the starting column, and this will be known as ending column. Okay. Then after this, let's highlight one more part. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 is can be referred as what? Starting row. And whereas the last part, 13, 14, 15, 16 can be referred as ending row. Right? So once you have done still here, now let's try to code. And in this time, what we'll do is we'll code and as well as we'll see explanation side by side. So it's better in understanding. So here I write public static. Okay. And do I want to return something? No, it's just going to display. So void, and let me name it as spiral array. Good. Do I need any argument? Obviously, I need a 2D array. So I have to give 2 square brackets. Okay. Once I have done that, go inside the function. Now, I need to create some variables. The first variable will be known as starting array, or start column. So let's say start col equal to 0. Then let me duplicate it. And here I'll say start row is also 0, colon, and here is a colon, capital R, just following naming convention. And then we have end column, we have to say, right? And first, let's go with, row, and row equal to, now row, obviously we have discussed like we know this will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that can be directly achieved with the help of array.length. Okay. So with the help of this, we'll directly get end row. And for column, what we can say is int end column equal to, and if we see it is starting from 0, 1, 2, 3. Even it can go up to next, but I took a square matrix. So how we can say this? Starting column, like row of 0. Can I say, because this is all row, right? Row, and row. So row of 0. Not row, actually, it can be referred as array of 0. So that will give us what? This entire blue line, that is this. And if we find its length, dot length, then this will give us nothing but 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 it will give, right? So this will return us what? 4. But we know what is our like ending column, like last value. Last value of this will be what? It will be 0, 1, 2, 3. It will be 3, right? Fine. Just try to understand. This is what? This is index. Okay. This is what? This is length. Okay. Array square bracket 0 dot length will give us length, whereas this one will give us index. So to get the index, what we have to do? We have to obviously minus 1. So here I'll be writing array square bracket 0. So this will give us the blue strip which I have drawn, dot length. Correct. And minus 1, so that our index is minus 1 even here. Yeah. So for both end row and end column, what I have done is minus 1, minus 1. Correct. So once we have understood still here, now it's a bit easy to write a loop. And what we'll do is we'll go step by step. So we'll try to first display the 1, 2, 3, 4. So for that, let me write the loop for, let's say int, let's go with x equal to 0. Okay, colon, and x should be less than, if you see, it should be less than and equal to what it is, yellow color, that is ending column, right? It is going at this side. So it is ending column. Okay. And then keep on updating x. Okay. And go outside. Once it is inside, what we are going to do, south, remove the ln so that it is displayed in single line. And now what we want to display is 1, 2, 3, 4. So first of all, I'll write array square bracket and square bracket. Now, which is changing? The blue strip is same, right? Like we are moving horizontal, and this is achieved with the help of what? Like first thing, this. So here it is constant. So for constant, I can say it is what? Starting row. Okay. So it's the starting row, blue color. Whereas this is changing. First it is 1, then it is hopping up again. Let me just, if you are getting confused, it is nothing but I'm referring to this line, this blue line. So if you see, this is starting row, that will be nothing but this would be a 0 itself. And if you see, we are hopping like this, right? That means this value should be changed. Okay. So here we have to give a value, something which is changing. So for us presently, what is changing? X is changing. So I'll give it here. Okay. So start, wait, like just a second. Here it's actually, I have to write the full abbreviation of this. That is starting row, and even here it's ending column. Let me write it properly. Ending column. Yeah. This will be constant, that is 0, if you see here, whereas only X is getting changed. That's what I was trying to explain. Then once we do that, so okay, first let's check if it is working. So I call spiral array here at last. Okay. And let me just run it. Cool. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Just for a bit of differentiation, like spacer in between, I'll give a empty blank space. And if I check now, cool, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct. Now what I want is I want to start with 8, 12, 16. So let's write a loop for that also. For, let's say, int, and let's say x equal to, now what should be the x? X, whatever is like was our first row. Okay, let me just clear a bit of stuff here. Okay. So it goes this. So our X, like first this was 0, then 1, 2, 3. This was what? Starting row, right? Now, what will be the next one? This is nothing but I can say starting row plus 1, right? This is starting row, which is 0 plus 1. If I do it, I'll get this one. Yeah. So that same thing I'm doing here. So I'll say start row plus 1. So it will go in next, and it should go up to where? Let me give this, and X should be less than end row. Am I right? End row. Cool. And keep on updating X plus plus. Correct? So I hope you have understood this, and let's try to display it. So south, it should be south, and here it should be array. Now what is changing? The first part or second part? The second part is constant. If you see 8, 12, 16, this is like the vertical parts will be referred to as second part, right? Column. So column is constant, and that is nothing but end column. So let me first write end column. And what is changing? The rows are changing, and the changing value is present in X. Correct? So if I run now, what is my expectation? My expectation is 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12, 16. So let's run it. 8, 12. Okay, 16 is not there. So first let's give a space bar plus. Okay. And now let's run it once again. Okay. If you see why 16 is not there, because our what we have said here is X, and X is starting with start row, and it is going to less than end row, but it should be also equal to, right? Because our end row is what? End row is this and last blue color, what you are seeing here. I hope like whatever I'm hovering, that is visible for you. This part, this itself is the ending row, right? And it should be equal to, then only even this will be considered. So for that purpose, what I did, I just added a equal to symbol here. And if I run now, you should be able to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12, 16. Once we have achieved this, let me close this again. Now what I want 15, 14, 13. And what will be the position of 15? For int, let's say X equal to whatever is my end column minus 1, right? end column minus 1. Yeah. Then here the logic will be bit reverse, because here what we are going, we are traveling in reverse order. So here instead of less than, we have to write greater than or equal to what? Starting start column, because we want to go to this 13, and 13 is here starting column, right? And once we have done that, what we have to keep on do, x minus minus, don't fall into a trap writing as x plus plus, because here we are traveling in reverse order. And once we do this, let me write south, let me remove ln, and what you have to simply display, first of all, whatever I know is I want array of array. And now what is constant? The horizontal part is constant, so that will come in the first part. So here I'll write it first as end row, which is constant. Now what is continuously changing? That is columns, so that value will be x, because x is continuously changing. Now if I run it, I am expecting 15, 14, 13 to be included. And if you see 15, 14, 13 is included, just I have to add a blank space. Once I have done this, now it's working as per our expectation. Okay. So once we do this, now what I have to do is travel upwards. Is we have to start with 9 and go up to 5. So how can I refer this? That can be referred as, this line is what? This line is ending row. So if I do minus 1, I'll go here. And how can I, like, still where I have to go? This is what? This is starting row. Oh my God. Let me clear this. So starting row. And if I do plus 1 for this, this will go here. So I have to start here and go up to here. So let me write a loop for that. For int x equal to end row minus 1 colon, and what it should be, x. Again, we are traveling in reverse order, so it should be minus, like the logic should be different, that is greater than and equal to, what is that? Start row plus 1. Okay, and then x minus minus. Now, once we have done this, go inside it and do south and remove the ln. Now, what is the fixed part? Let me write first 2 square brackets. Now, what is the fixed part? The starting column, yellow line is fixed, right? So that will come here, starting column. What is changing? The rows are changing. So the changing value is x, and that's where I gave it x. And if I run it now, so yes, it's working fine. It's not 95. I have to just add a blank space here. And let's check it now. Clear. So if you see, we have got it complete. Now, once we have reached till here, now it doesn't make sense to write again a loop for this and then this separate loop. That will not work, because if someone just updates our array to, let's say, 10 into 10 row, 10 column, then again writing like such loops will not make a sense. So what we have to figure out is this code, whatever we have written now, we have to try to find out a way where it is repeating. Okay. So if we try to observe what's happening here, is that this starting row and this ending row, these are approaching one another. Am I right? Let me use color as pink. So starting row is going like this, and ending row is trying to come up. Correct? So this is one scenario. Whereas the same condition applies for starting column and the ending column. So even they are trying to approach inside. So this is the two things we have observed. So let's try to convert this into our code. So for that, what I'll do is I will put this entire code into a loop. That would be a conditional based loop. Okay, so what I'll try to write is while. I'll put a conditional loop while, and I'll say starting row, start row should be greater than or equal. Okay, it should be starting row should be less than or equal to end row. Okay, and my start column, okay, start column should be less than or equal to my end column. Okay, if it is this, then only keep on repeating this part. If it is not, then stop it. Correct. Let me give some indentation so it looks good. And yes, so let's try to test our this if it works fine. Oh, okay. Just I have to close this. Okay. The issue what happened is that we didn't update our start row and end row at last. Okay, so this happens. We have to simply update. So what I have to do with the start row, I have to keep on adding so that it goes down. Then what I have to do with the end row, what I have to do is I have to keep on separating so it goes up. Then after that, what I have to do with the start column, I have to keep on adding so it goes into, which is this side, right side. Then I have for the end column, I have to keep on subtracting. Correct. And if I run now there won't be an infinite loop. Okay, the issue is I have to update it here, right? Here. Okay, it was outside the while loop, so that's why there was an error. And if I try to run, and if we see now, we have got it completely. So let me try to pull back my image. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 8, 12, 16. Okay. Then we have 15, 14, 13, 9, 5. Then again 5, 6, 7, 11, 10. Why did this printed 2 times? Okay. So if we see now here, there are 2 times 5 displayed. That is because if we see now still 9, 5, this we manually did it, right? We checked it. We came up to this position, that is 5. And when it is going for the next loop, that is with the help of while loop, it goes again here. And here, if you see, here I had mentioned a default value as 0. So as it is 0, again, it is considering this 5. But what I have to do is I have to update it as start column. Start column. In this way, what will happen? Here we have seen that start column is updating to plus plus. So automatically it will go to 6. And if I try to run it, now if you see 5, 6, 7, 11, 10. Clear? So yeah, that's how you display the spiral array. Yeah. Okay. And let's try to understand this condition a bit more. That is what I have written in while condition. Okay. So if you see, I have also included here equal to. Now, if you ask me why, let's assume like if this is our array. So when it is keep on reducing, okay, we also want to take the middle condition, right? So this is the condition where the start row and the end row will both be equal. Okay, if we didn't give this equal to, then it is going to skip this middle part. Okay, so that is the first reason why I gave equal to in both of it. Yeah, and why did I use here and? Because no matter, like if you have a array which is of a rectangular this format, or if you have an array which is of this format, it should work. Okay, but there is a slight error here, like not an error, but I can say a slight issue. That is, for example, let's say we have an array of 5, 5. So when it's a big array and when it keeps on repeating, okay, there will be a position when it comes to this box. Okay, this time what will happen is that as there are 2 conditions here itself, that is for this is for what? Top, and this is for what? This is for left, this is for bottom, and this is for right. Now, what will this do is that whenever it is top, so it will display this top part once. After that, there is nothing to be displayed at left. So when it will again come here, it is also going to display this part 2 times. Okay. So to avoid this, here I am going to give a condition. So the condition is, now first of all, this is for a top, then left. Now this is the below parts are which will be repeating. So here I'll be giving it like if bottom right. So if my start row equal to start column. So no, not start column, sorry, end row. And row. Okay, so that means they have already matched up. So if they have already matched up, then here it is already displayed. This for loop will already display the value. So here what we are going to do is we are going to break. We are going to stop. Okay. In case if it was an array in form of rectangular, and if it has reached up to a point now, so even here I am going to give the same condition that if the start column is equal to the end column, if this happens, okay, so if they both have reached, that means here it is already printed above, okay, first time. So here what I'll do is I'll break it. Yeah. So these are the two modifications, and our code should work fine now. Like it should still work fine. So if I run it, and if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12, let me see 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12, 16, 15, 14, 13, 9, 5, 6, 7, 11, 10. Okay. So yeah, it's working completely fine. Okay. So let's move with the next question. Okay. So our next question is to calculate the sum of diagonal. Okay. Diagonal sum. That is nothing but we have to add 1, 6, 11, 16. Okay. Then we have to also add 13, 10, 7, 4. Okay. So what will be the answer? So that will be 10, 20, 20, 30, 34. So this sum is 34. And if I try to add it here, even this should be 34, but let's confirm 10, 20, 20, 32, 32, 33, 34. Okay. So we have 34 and 34. And if I try to add it, this will be 68. Clear? So let's try to do this. Okay, before doing this, now also let's try to see the logic here. So if we try to observe here, in this part, for this diagonal, the logic is the row will always be equal to column. Okay, the index I'm speaking, the index will be always. So for example, this is what 0, 0. This is what 1, 1. And this will be 2, 2. And this will be 2, 3, 3. Yeah. So first let's do this and then move to the next part. So let's create a function, public static main void, and let's give the name as diagonal sum. And let's say int array square brackets. Okay. Once I have reached here, now let me create two variables. Okay, so we can also say it as primary diagonal or first diagonal. Let me say it as primary diagonal. And let's say this is equal to 0. So here we are storing like sum. So this is store the sum, that is 34. Similarly, I'll create a secondary diagonal, which is also initially 0. Yeah. Then I'm going to start a loop for int x equal to 0. Then go up to where x less than array dot length. Okay. Then x plus plus. Once this is done, so now it is traveling in vertical ways. So each time it comes to a vertical, it should also travel horizontal ways. So for that, I'll write for int x equal to 0. Then x less than array square bracket 0, or it's also better to write it as a few changes here. Instead of x, I'll say row. whereas even for this I have to say row, and for even this I'll say it as row. Okay, whereas this can be referred as column, and this can be referred as column, and array of row I'll say dot length. Then what I have to do is column plus plus. Okay, so the basic thing. Then once I have done this, so to get this values, what I have to do first, let me try to display it. So what I said is array, I can say row, square bracket, column. But do I want to display all the values? No, I want to display only which are in the primary diagonal. So I'll give a condition. The condition is if row equal to column, if this so if this happens, then only what you do, display this. And if I run it, okay, let me first call this diagonal sum and run it. So I have 1, 6, 11, 16. Now I don't want to display it. What I want is I want to add it in my primary diagonal. So I'll say primary diagonal plus equal to what it is, array of row, square bracket, column. Correct? Right? So this will be so the sum of this is stored primary diagonal. Now the next logic is this, to store the values of secondary diagonal. So for secondary diagonal, we again have a logic here. Let's first try to write the values here. So the value will be 0, 3, then 1, 2, 2, 1, then 3, 0. Okay. And if we try to see this, let me write here. So 0, 3, 1, 2, then 2, 1, and 3, 0. Okay. And so if we try to develop some logic here, we are going, like, if we try to add this, first of all, let's see what we are getting. So here the answer is always what? 3. Am I right? Okay. And this can be also written as whatever is my array length. Okay, minus 1. So array length is what? 4. And if I do minus 1, I'm also getting it as 3. Okay, so with the base of this knowledge, I'm going to write my next if condition. So this is for secondary this diagonal. So here how I'll write, if row plus column equal to whatever is my array dot length minus 1. So this will be secondary diagonal. So secondary diagonal plus equal to array of row, square bracket, column. Right. So once we have done this, and once we finish our loop, what we can do is we can simply return. So return what we can return. Okay, it's void, right? So okay, let's try to display it then instead of returning. So I say south, what is our primary diagonal plus secondary diagonal. Yeah. So we know that we should get the answer as 68. So let's see if it's working fine. Okay, I've already updated diagonals. Okay, and if you see, it's working completely fine. So now how we solved it is somewhat like a brute force approach. That is, we kept on solving like a general approach. How when we get a problem, how we go. But there is a better way to do this, because like how can we get a better condition is just with the help of this if. Now because if you see here, now what is the time complexity? The for loop is running for n times, and inside it is also there is one more for loop which is running for n times. So the time complexity here is n squared. So the time complexity can be reduced to n with the small changes. So let's create a new function for that, public static diagonal sum. Okay, and here I'm going to say okay, the same okay, and then I'm going to give you and here I'll write a single loop First of all, okay, let me copy this thing here, what I have written for the first time, because those are same. So once we have reached till here, what I can do is I can directly update my primary diagonal as equal to, sorry, plus equal to my array, square bracket, row, and row. Clear? Because we already know, like whenever these are equal, that is row equal to column, that time only we are going to update. So here, even if I change it to row, it's still not going to make any difference, right? So that logic, I'm putting it here, and that's how I'm finding my primary diagonal. Then once I do this, what I'll do is I'll update my secondary diagonal. So for the secondary diagonal, the same logic I'll do is array, square bracket. Now row is at least same, okay? But how will I get the diagonal? So for the diagonal, if you see, like if I try to pull it down, so just try to focus on this part. Okay, so what is the diagonal here? This is the what we want, 3210, right? 3210. So the formula for this, what it was? We had said a row plus column equal to array length minus 1. So now what we want is this column. So column can be also written as array dot length minus 1, and row we are shifting this side, so it will be minus row, right? And here what we have to write is the column itself, right? So let me write it here. So here we have to write the column itself. So let me put this formula here. So I'll say array dot length, let me clear drawing, minus 1 minus row. Okay, so once we are doing this, we are also getting the respective column and diagonal. And once I do this, I'm simply going to sort. So what I'll display is primary diagonal plus secondary diagonal. Okay, and I'll just duplicate this, and I'll also call my display updated sum. So you can compare it. And if I try to run it, okay, if you see 68 and 68, so let me just put a print statement here between south and run it. Okay, so with both the approaches, if you see, we are getting the same value, but here in updated version, what is happening? It's more like a linear search, we can say, where we are going only once in linear format. But here our time complexity was n square, so we are going loop inside a loop, and here it is just n. Clear? So I hope you have understood this problem. So our next step is to find out the key from given sorted array. Okay. So the condition here is the array whichever they have given, that is a 2D array, plus it is sorted. What do you mean by sorted? So if we just try to see this array itself, now it is actually the whatever arrays if you see in the row, they are all sorted. So 12, then after 12 it is 22, then 32, then 42. If you see they are in ascending order, right? You take any order. Like let's take the third row. Given this is in the form of 29, then 31, 39, and 50. Yep. So the rows are sorted, and not only that, even the columns are also sorted. For example, let's take the second column. So after 22, the next biggest number is 27. Then after bigger than that is 31, then 35. Same thing with all the other columns. Like let's take this column. So 42, then we have 47, 50, and 50. Yep. So let me complete this: 37, 41, 17, 29, and 32. Yep. So once we have this array, now our task is to find out the key element in the given array. So we'll be provided with the key, and we have to find out the location of that key in the given array. Right? So once we have understood this the concept, now how can we solve it? Okay. So let's think like in the first way, that is a brute force approach. That is nothing but like whatever first pops up in our mind. The first thing that pops up is, let's say if we have got anything like a number 52. Then what we could have simply done, as we have done previously, we will go with each item. So we'll iterate through each array, and finally we'll reach our destination. But if we follow this brute force approach, and you will see it is going traveling through all the elements. So the worst case scenario, time taken for this will be n squared, right? Because this is n, and this side also is traveling, and this side. It's actually like the array is written as like this, n into m, this goes and on, but presently they are of same size. So once this is done, so we know that this is not a good approach. So let's try to avoid it. Now, then is there any better approach to solve it? We know about binary search, right? In binary search, what we have learned, like we are going to break any array in between, and we are simply checking if it is present in this side or left side or the right side, right? So in that way, what was happening? Our time was reducing to log of n. Okay. So if we try to apply that logic for here, what would have happened is for this particular array, we are trying to find out if it is present in this side or this side. We are dividing it. So this is going to take log n. Then even if we don't find anything here because the item is 52, so again we'll check for this. Again for this, the time taken will be log n, and finally at last we'll get our element, and the time taken for this will be also log. So if we try to add this all, then we'll get the time complexity of n log n. So it's better than brute force approach where we are getting n square, but still it is not that optimal. Why? Because we are not considering the importance of the sorting, right? And why is this important? Because from this we get to know that our row is also sorted and our column is also sorted, right? So how can this help us? So if we try to take, like, let's take the first 2 points as 12 and 52. Okay, let me write it once again. So 12 and 52. So if we take these two numbers and let's say our number is something 39. So 39 is the number we want to find out. And if we take this, start from here we are confused, like, should we go in this direction? Because here again 39 is greater than 12. Okay. And can we go in this direction? Here also we are confused because here also what is happening? 39 is greater. So either you go in this direction or this direction. 39, the number which we are trying to find, is always greater. Okay. So even if you try with this position, so if you start with this position, even here you are confused, like whether to go up or in this direction, because on both the side, what is happening? 39 is less. Okay, even here 39 can come, even in this side 39 can come. So obviously from here we get to know that these are not the good points to start our problem, right? So we cannot start from here and here. But there are 2 points in this array which will give us a clear idea. So from where we can start. For example, those points are this, which are present in our secondary diagram. Now, what is the speciality of these points that are present at this corner? So let's take this point. So here, if we are comparing our 34 with our key item, okay, so let's say this is our key. So if it is greater than, we are going to follow in this direction. So here, what it is happening? So 34, key is greater. So obviously we are going to 35. Then once we go to 35, we are again comparing. Like if it is greater than, if it is greater, we are traveling in right direction, or if it is less, we are going to go up. And if you see it is greater, so again we'll go here in 41. Once we reach 41, what will happen? We'll again check our condition. If it is greater, we are traveling in this side. If it is less, we are going to go up. And once we reach this destination, when we compare with our key, obviously our key is less, 39. So we are going in opposite direction. So the same logic will be applied for this from this point also. For example, if it is less, if the key is less, we are traveling in this is left side, and if key is greater, we'll be traveling in bottom side. Right. So now if we see 39, what is 39? 39 is less than this 42. So we will come here at 32, and here we are comparing. Is 39 less than? No, it is not less than. So you can't go left side. It is greater. Yes, you can you come down. Once you come down at 37, you are again comparing. If it is less, you will go in this direction. If it is greater, you are going in down direction. And if you see it is 39 is greater than 37, so you will come down, and finally you will reach your destination, that is 30. Clear? So from this, what you understand? So here, if it is greater, you are traveling right side. If it is greater, and if less, you are traveling for the upside top. Similarly, here what is happening? If less, you are traveling in the left side. If greater, you are traveling to the bottom side. Right? So once we have understood this knowledge, we can just try to implement it, and you can follow any of the methods. Right? You can start from here, that is from the bottom point 34, or you can start from here. Okay, so on the both way you can solve. So let's first go with this part, like so trying to solve from 34 and bottom, and then we can check with this. Okay, so let's try to code it. So I'll say public static method. And what is the name of this? Spiral search. Okay. Spiral search. Okay. And what I want the argument? I want the argument as array. That is 2D array. Is it that much? No, I also want one more array, that is key. That is what we want to find. Clear? So once we have done this, then I'll be creating two variables. One is row, to be equal to, we are starting with this element, okay, 34. So here, what is the row value? Row value can be returned as array dot length minus 1. Clear? So this will give me this entire row. And what I want, and what I want now, x comma column. Which is this 34 is present in which column? First column. So that can be returned as 0. Clear? So once this is written, I have to write a condition while. Okay, and inside this condition are whatever we had discussed, right? To go up, that part should come to. What should I write in while condition? So we know we are at what? 34. And to find any number, let's say the worst case scenario would be like finding like somewhat this number 42. So to reach up to 42, what it has to do? It has to travel up to this row. Okay, so it's the row, it should go up to like 0, and the column should go up to the end column. Right? This is the end column, this line. So I'll say, so if row is greater than or equal to 0, keep on going inside this loop. And also check, for that also check for column. So what should be column? Column should be less than and equal to array dot length minus 1. Okay, so it is completely reversed. Okay, here we had done what? For row we had given array dot length minus 1, whereas in column we are giving less than, because we are going up to large. Okay. Once we have done this, so the loop will continuously work. And here I'll put my first condition. If array square bracket row square bracket column is equal to let's say key. So what I'm writing here, array of row bar column. So this will give the particular element like 31, 29. And if this is equal to key, if this ever happens, what I'll do south, and I'll print element, or I can say key found at square bracket plus row plus colon comma plus column plus quotation mark square bracket. Correct? Found at this, and if it is found, you need not go ahead. You can simply return from this function return. Yep. If this. So if this condition is not working, like if this is not equal, then what I have to do is I have to take the if condition. So in this if condition, what I am checking, like from 34, I have to go up. So like let's say if key is less than array of this value, how can I like row and this row square bracket column. So this is nothing but if key, let's say key is 29 and 29 is where is above then above of 34. So this can be returned as, so if this condition happens, what you do, whatever is my row, 2 minus minus, because we are going up. Okay. Else, if this doesn't happen, what you do is whatever is my column, 2 plus plus. Okay, so that means it will go in this direction. So if it is not less, then obviously that means it will be great. Then it will go in 35, 41 in this direction. So for this, the column has to be increased. Yeah. So once you have done this, what you have to do is, so yeah, that's it about spiral search. So let's try to check it. So here I'll say spiral search, parentheses, I'll give array. And here I have to pass on a key. So let's say I want to find out 32. And if I run it, so key found at 0, 2. What is 0? 0 is the 0th row. And the in the column is 0, 1, 2, column number 2. So that's how we found out our key. And if let's say I update it to 47, and if I run it, clear. So it is in first row, third column, right? Working fine. And if you see, it was pretty simple enough. You had to just understand it behind the logic. And the same thing, if you start with 42, you have to just update. If it is less than, then what you have to do, you have to do column minus minus. And if it is greater, what you have to do, you have to do row plus plus. Okay, so if you want, I'll create it for that also. For that, I'll just duplicate this part. Spiral search. I'll keep here the definition as log. And here array dot length, what we are starting? We are starting with this 42. So this is in which row? This is in top row. So I'll give it as 0. And here what I can do for column, array dot length. I can put it like this. And here I have to give square bracket 0. Yeah. So this will give me what? The column length, because it is present in 42. Okay, so yeah, once we have done this, now what's the next step? Here we have to change the condition. So here it will be column and this one will be row. Is it right? Because column should be greater than equal to 0. Okay, it is approaching towards the 0. And row should be what? Less than or equal to array dot length, because it is going downwards direction. So yeah, that is correct. We did not change our if condition. If condition will remain same. Now, this if condition should be changed. So if key is less than, so let's assume the key is 22, less than our array. Our this present element is 42. So if it is this set, what we are doing, we are subtracting our column. So this should be subtracted as like given as column. Whereas else, if it is let's say 52, like what we are doing, we are going in downwards direction. So that should be updation of row plus plus. And if I just copy this function name and if I call it here, so this should also work fine and run it here. So if you see, it gives the same output as what it was given for the earlier key found at 1, 3. Yeah. So yeah, I hope you have understood this spiral search. No, it's not a spiral search. Yeah, okay. Just a silly mistake. This is not known as spiral search. It is known as staircase. Staircase. My bad. I gave it wrong name. Staircase search. So let me Control C. And even let me it here as staircase search. Okay. So yeah, I hope you have understood it. That's it with today's class. Bye.